#1 Texas versus #2 TCU on Saturday at 7 o'clock, and it's for the outright Big 12 championship.
Wow. That sounds pretty good, right, Coach?
Sounds good, especially if we come out on the right end of it.
So Bruce, you've played them twice. You played them in indoors,
right,
and then you played them in a non-conference match in Fort Worth. Can you talk about how that got scheduled and what you've learned about them thus far?
Yeah, I mean, we know them pretty well. Their team is pretty veteran. Our team is pretty veteran too, so I think we know each other pretty well. As far as scheduling, it just makes sense. The way the rankings and the positioning for NCAA championships work is your record really doesn't matter. It's all about who you beat and who you lose to. So there's not much to lose when you play one of the best teams in the country, and there's everything to gain. And so both coaches felt like, for those reasons, it made sense to play a non-conference match. And in our conference, as you know, there's only 6 teams. So we've got some scheduling work to do outside of the conference. And yeah, that's why we decided to do it. And this time it worked out pretty well for us. We played them in the finals of the national indoors, and I think they've got a few guys on the team who probably play a little better indoors than outdoors. I think our guys are fine either way. But they were hot and playing really well. And we also had, and they outplayed us, but we were also had some pretty grueling schedules leading up to the match. We probably weren't getting back to the hotel until about 1 in the morning on Friday and Saturday nights, and then we kept having to play a little earlier and earlier. So by the end of the day, I think a few of our guys had hit the wall and they were a little fresher.
How's the team now? How do you feel like they're, obviously undefeated outside of, Ohio State?
Yeah, no, we're in a good spot right now, and I think for us, the last couple of years, that answer always starts with the health, and right now we're doing pretty well. I expect that we're going to have our full complement of players, and so they're trending in the right direction. And we had Micah out for a little while, and he came back and played a really good match against Baylor. So physically, we're in pretty good shape, as good as we've been. And as far as the level of our play and confidence, it's pretty high. So it should be a good match. We know TCU is a great team, and we're going to have to be at our best or close to our best to have another good chance, but we're looking forward to it.
How dominant has Elliot been, and is he playing his best tennis?
I would say yes to that question, although I would have said yes to that question before the Baylor match. I think against Baylor, he would probably agree that he didn't play his best. He has a tendency to rise to the occasion, and when his back does get put against the wall, he responds really well. So I think in that match, he probably wasn't his best match of the year, but if you look at his trend overall, yeah, you'd say he's been pretty dominant. I think he's #1 in the country in the way the computer works. He's #1 by a long shot. He's lost plenty of sets, and he's been behind plenty. So we just trying to get him to play with that chip on his shoulder all the time, not just when he gets pushed to the brink. But no, he's improving all the time. He's the hardest working guy on the team, and we've got a lot of hard workers. And yeah, he's at a pretty high level right now.
How's he taking his game to the next level? What has he added to his game?
Well, I think, believe it or not, I think the injury he experienced last year really helped him in the long run, because he couldn't hit his backhand. So he had to develop something else as more of a weapon. He had to develop a bigger forehand that could hide his weakness on the backhand side, and he had to develop a stronger slice so that people couldn't pick on his backhand. And so I think those are the 2 biggest things that came out of that is a stronger forehand and more options on the backhand, developing the slice in particular. And other than that, I think the response that he had to the injury, being willing to put himself out there for his team, even if he had to take some losses and maybe look a little vulnerable. I think that step mentally really helped him, and now he's just continued to play with a chip on his shoulder and a hunger to reach his long-term goals, not just for the team here, but beyond Texas in professional tennis. So yeah, he just goes about it day after day, and he's matured mentally, and I think the challenge that he went through last year has really helped him.
Nev didn't play in the first match against TCU. He did in the second. He
Yeah.
won. What are you seeing from him?
Nevin's been a great story. When he first came, he's from Austin. He would tell you that he had some serious questions in his mind if he was going to be good enough to play at this level. And really, this is the first time he's been a regular starter. He's kind of earned that position now. He's played a few matches here and there throughout, but he's improved just slowly but surely over 5 years now, just by staying with it, not getting discouraged, putting in the work, dedicating himself to it in the summer, along with some of the academic goals and post-tennis goals that he wanted to work on. So he's just stuck to it, and he's become a really good competitor. He's been clutch. He's clinched some matches in big moments this year and last year. And but I think physically he's become a much stronger athlete. He moves a lot better than he did when he first came here, and he's become a pretty good competitor too.
Coach, can you take us through what does it look like for the players to consistently, day in and day out, prepare for this time? I mean, they're playing at elite, but they had to be doing something at the beginning of the season that they continue to do to land here. What exactly does that look like in there?
Well, we have 3 things that we came up with together as a group, mostly them, but I just helped guide them and ask the right questions to them, and they're not really tennis-specific things, but they're things that have guided everything we've done this year, and so those things are number one. To have a winner's mentality and a winner's mentality is something we've defined and they've defined as having a mentality of challenge. So we get many obstacles thrown our way, and they want to look at each obstacle that they face as a challenge. And each match that we play and each week that we are presented with presents different challenges. So that's been something that they've bought into and really stuck with. So I'd say that's number one, is to have a winners/challenge mentality. Number two, they're a really close team, and they've been that way throughout, but they haven't always been great about holding each other accountable and being willing to call each other out and self-lead. And so that was something that they wanted to do better at, and I think they've done it. We haven't had too many guys that have gone astray, but when it has happened, they've been willing to step out and remind each other about what they're here trying to do. So I'd say that's probably the other big theme. I'd say the winner's mentality, the challenge mentality, being willing to hold each other accountable, and then to be professional in taking care of their bodies. I think that stemmed from what happened last year with all the injuries, to be really professional about the way they go about, honing their craft and taking care of their bodies. So those are the things that have guided us. And then there's always little themes that we have throughout the match. But our latest thing that we're on is that you don't back into accomplishing something worthwhile. I think that was a quote that I read from Pat Riley a long time ago, and they've kind of bought into that too, and realized that if they're gonna win championships, and winning a championship in this conference means you got to be good enough to win a national championship, with TCU there right now. So they realize that if they're going to accomplish something that they're proud of, they're going to have to go for it and put themselves out there and put it on the line. So I'd say those are the guiding anchors or principles that we have this year.
You talk about national championship, or is that unspoken?
Mostly unspoken. Yeah, I don't speak about it. I've heard it. I've heard it from them a couple times in the beginning of the year, but they don't speak about it too much. It's understood, and I have heard it from them. We all know that's what they're looking for, but with the schedule we've played this year, there's no room for getting ahead of ourselves because we've played so many strong teams. But yeah, I know that's what they want, but they've respected every opponent they've played this year, and everyone's good enough to beat them if we're not ready. So that's been pretty impressive, the way they've taken care of.
Can you talk about
each match the same?
Can you talk about the importance of the doubles point for you all this season?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like over the last couple of years, our doubles has turned from a weakness to a strength, or close to being a strength. We're on a good roll right now. We're playing pretty good doubles. We've worked on it a lot, and that's been another thing that we've stressed, or they've stressed with each other, to have more pride in the way we practice doubles, because sometimes, in the past it's been a thing that we do at the end of the practice, and it's kind of a hit and giggle thing, where they're having fun, but the margins are so thin in the doubles, with no ad scoring and one set. It's really a crapshoot, and you have to play with a tremendous amount of discipline and energy, and we talk about it being an energy and commitment sprint. And so they've been practicing better and reducing the amount of points that they play tentatively, and working on the skills individually. And I think we've done a better job at that, and it's slowly but surely turning into a strength.
Elliot and Cleveland played a while together, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. They had a really good start, and then they had a slump where they were not playing well, and they were losing several in a row. we made one. We just felt like we needed a spark, and Brandon Wagner suggested that they switch sides, the way they return from, and since they've done that, they haven't lost. But yes, they've been playing really well lately, and they've got great energy together.
When did they switch on defense?
Boy, good question. Probably about 6 matches ago, I'm thinking. Yeah.
Who went where?
Well, Cleve was playing the ad side, and Elliot was playing the deuce side, and now we have Elliot back in the deuce, now we have Elliot in the ad and Cleve in the deuce.
And how's Brandon? I mean, talk about what he's meant to you.
Yeah, he's been great. So since I had the good fortune to get this job, Brandon's been with me, and he got a tremendous amount of experience before Texas as a player and as a coach. He's coached some great players on the professional circuit, and including John Isner, and he's coached at South Florida, and he was a volunteer, I think, at Georgia. Has some good playing experience. I really like his temperament with the guys. He's very professional, very knowledgeable. The guys trust him a lot on the court, so he does a great job with the guys. And he had a prior relationship with some of the guys on our team, most notably Micah and Elliot. So I think he's been instrumental in helping those guys, number one, come here, but help them stay on path to what their goals are here at Texas, and then also, post-Texas.
You got the job after winning a championship. Did you
Yeah.
talk to Rodney Terry?
I thought about it. I was just thinking as I was reading everything, I was quietly thinking to myself, man, this seems eerily familiar, right down to the fact that they played Rice on the first night, which is who we played on the first night too. But no, I'm really happy that he got the job. I've gotten to know him just a little bit, but I've been super impressed with Coach Terry, the way he goes about his business, and the relationship he seems to have with the players, and I'm sure he'll do a great job.
Did
at
you think
Texas.
of it as pressure back then,
Um,
before y'all won it all?
I think I feel like I did a pretty good job of disciplining myself not to think about it, but I'm human, and I love Texas, and I wanted to stay here in any capacity I could. But I realized that my obligation and my biggest responsibility would be to help support our players and help them reach their goals that they want to reach, and be a good ambassador for Texas. And I feel like I did that pretty well. So yeah, once we got going after a couple of weeks, I was able to. You've been doing this job for so long. At that point, I probably had almost 30 years in the books as a coach in college, and your routines and you're used to it. And so I felt like I did a pretty good job over that. But yeah, there were certainly some times I had to refocus myself.
How many teams do you think have a legit chance to win it?
That's a really good question. A decent amount. Yeah, I would probably say 5 or 6. That's my guess. Yeah, definitely not just 1 or 2. The matches that we've won, we've had a great season. We've played the toughest schedule. We're going to be number 1 in the rankings again this week, and if we've beaten teams that are 2, 3, and I think 2, 3, and 6 in the country, or we've beaten a lot of great teams. But if you look at some of those matches, the margins are so thin these days, especially with no ad scoring, that a lot of those wins could have been losses. So it's really who's going to play better and handle the moment better. But I do think there's more than a handful of teams that are capable.
Coach, this might be a strange question, and I'm not sure it's even possible. But with the draw of the Moody Center, is it possible to have indoor tennis? And have you ever thought about that at the moment?
Yeah, I've thought of that. That'd be a cool idea to take on one time. The only thing is with the dual match, you need you can't just do it on one court. But I was reading, I read Coach Dick Gould, who was the longtime coach at Stanford and won countless NCAA championships. He did something like that. They played it was over the course of a whole day or a couple of days, dual match, and they said they packed the arena. So that's an interesting idea. I don't know how you'd pull off a dual match with just one court, though, but it'd be pretty cool.
What about outdoor DKR?
Yeah, you could squeeze a few courts in there. I'll settle for this weekend trying to absolutely fill the place and see if we can get over 1,000 people, which I think we can do. But yeah, that's a neat idea. I'd love to have that many people. Usually most people, when they do come out for the first time, they really enjoy it, and they see it's played, the sport in college is played a lot differently than it is in pro tennis, and there's a lot of emotion and a lot of passion, like is the case with most college sports. And most people want to come back, and if you haven't been to a college tennis match, for folks who haven't been to a college tennis match yet, I think this would be the one to go to. Can't get much better than number 1 versus number 2 for a conference title.
Was there a point in the season where you sensed the guys holding each other more accountable and starting to hit some of these goals?
Yeah, I mean, for the accountability question, we've only had a few opportunities, a few moments where I felt that was warranted, and when it was, they stepped up, and Elliot was the one to deliver the message, and I thought he did it beautifully.
When was that?
When was that? That was probably after, which match would that? It would have been. It was one of the times that we played against Arizona. Yeah, it was the second. It was the outdoor match against Arizona. And I thought that was a really good moment for the team, the way he spoke up. And as far as other moments where I felt like the team had something special, I started to pick it up right away, as early as the first match of the year when we played Florida on the road. And really, they haven't disappointed. There's only one match that we've played this year where the team really felt that they didn't put their best effort on the court or their best performance on the court, and that was when we went to play Ohio State on the road, which is a super tough place to play. The way they responded at the national indoors when they had another opportunity to play Ohio State showed me something, because they were pretty determined. We got beat as bad as we've ever gotten beat since I've been at Texas, and we beat them indoors at the national indoors, and that was a really good moment. So both matches we've lost this year, we've been able to turn it around, which is pretty cool.
Do you think Elliot's time last season, I think he spent some time at a pro environment, I forget what he said, but he had practiced with them or played somewhere with them?
Yeah.
Do you think that helped him say, okay, this is what it looks like on the other side?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I think you're probably referring to the U.S. Open, not this last year, but the year before. He played in the qualifying of the U.S. Open and did pretty well. Won a couple of matches, won one round, was super close to winning another round. Got to practice with Andy Murray quite a bit, who's one of his favorite players, and practicing with those guys. Yeah, I think he started to feel, yeah, maybe I can do this, and get a little more confidence from that. Unfortunately, as soon as he was playing at a super high level, he won a pro tournament, a $25,000 pro tournament in the fall, and then as soon as he came back from the U.S., in the summer that was, and then as soon as he came back from the U.S. Open, that's when his wrist started hurting. So I think he was ready to play at a high level last year, but the injury turned out to last about a year and a half. So, but now he's doing much better.